Well, first of all, it's a challenge, and you're not alone. Um, Fear is a big part of building a business because you're going into an unknown place. You're going into an unknown state of exposing yourself.
Alrighty then, welcome back everyone. I have a very, very special guest here today with me. We were going to talk about a topic that I talk about frequently, but I wanted someone to pitch in and help me with this topic. Coach Dean Brown, coach consultant Dean Brown, is not only an expert at what he does, he's very good at what he does, but he's also a very dear friend. And as you all know, I'm always talking with my clients, my students, coaches, life coaches, relationship coaches. We talk about finding our clients, we talk about connecting with them and then converting. And then I'm always talking about the connection. And this is sometimes a problem. And I wanted to talk again about this topic, connection. And then I thought, oh my God, I gotta bring Dean in. He's the one. He's amazing. And so I'm happy that he said yes to my invitation. And so welcome, Dean. Dean is a leadership development coach, and he works with teams. He helps coaches, entrepreneurs develop leadership, and he's going to talk about that with us today. Welcome, Dean. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Well, it was a true honor to have you invite me, Jack, and I'm always excited to communicate with you too. I find you and me, when we get together, we're about as authentic as it gets. And you mentioned how you wanted me to speak about authenticity, and it's one of my strengths: authenticity, vulnerability. I've been through so much, and it doesn't bother me to talk about my weaknesses as well as my strengths, because we're all human. And I'm very happy and honored to be here with you and helping you with your project, brother. So thank you for asking me to be here.
That's true. Thank you so much. So as I was saying, Dean, we have to find our clients, understand who we are, and then we connect with them, and then we convert them. That's the structure. That's the process. But here, the connection, I'm always telling my students, my viewers, my clients, we need to connect through authenticity. I'm repeating myself all the time, and because I teach them how to tell their own stories, their personal stories. So they're going on stage, or maybe they're recording a video, they're going live, they talk about themselves. They talk about their struggles, how they went through an experience, and then they overcame that and then learned something. They share that lesson. And it's not an easy thing, because you sometimes you don't know how to present yourself as being yourself, as being authentic. So I'm always talking about telling your story, be yourself, connect with your audience, because when you show yourself as being human, that's the way your audience will be perceiving you as one of their own. And when you show that, that's when you connect and you gain their trust, so that you can move them to the next stage, which is offering them some help if they need your help. But they only be seeing you and listening to you once they trust you, and they won't trust you if they don't see you as being authentic. So no one better than you to talk about authenticity and vulnerability, how to present yourself as being vulnerable, as being imperfect, if I may say. So again, thank you so much. I want to know more about your story. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, how you became a coach, how you decided to teach, how you decided to share the expertise, this gift you have about authenticity?
Happy to do it, brother. And you more than anybody know my true story. So it's going to be, I hope I don't end up boring you, because you've heard of
No. I'm always excited about, because you're a great storyteller. I told you that yesterday. You're a great storyteller. So I'm always excited to hear everything you tell. I'm always like, okay, he's going to tell a story. I'm going to sit back here and then get excited. I'm always doing that.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I come from Northern Ontario, Canada. I was born and raised in a small town. My dad was a locomotive. He was a powerful man. He was the mayor. He owned the largest business. He was the secretary treasurer of the Lions Club. That's a service group that helps the community. And he loaned more money than the bank. He was a very powerful man. And I always was trying to please him. And I was always trying to do things the way he told me to do them. And it always put me in a place where I wasn't being myself. I was actually suppressing my true self in a way that made me not authentic. And it made me struggle, and it made me falter because I wasn't being my true self. And I didn't allow myself to show my strengths. I actually suppressed all those abilities that I didn't even know I had at the time, because obviously this is a long time ago when I was growing up. But to give you an example of how my dad influenced me in a negative way by being so forceful, and at times, you'll learn this is my home, these are my rules, you'll learn things the way I teach you. And his strengths were very, very oppressive. And just to kind of step back a bit, this is how a lot of us as learning to be life coaches, as deciding to be life coaches, we are intimidated by the strengths of other life coaches. We watch other people that are successful, and we find ourselves saying, I want to be like that person. I want to be great like that person. And we suppress ourselves. We let that oppress us and hold us back from being our true selves. So just to give you a story, a quick story, my dad, being who he was, the leader, the man of the town. I was on my way home from school one day at about the age of 12, and there was a native reserve in the area, and I was beset by three native boys, and they beat me up fairly soundly. They made me, bloody nose and stuff like that. And it scared me. And I went home and I, essentially cried to my dad saying, Dad, I just got beat up by three boys. My dad, being the power, and he was a World War II fighter pilot veteran as well. So he was a very aggressive and confident and, just outwardly powerful man. He actually beat me because there was only three boys. Believe that. Right. So it was one of those things where, I was counting on my dad for a little bit of sympathy, and he actually had zero sympathy, and he actually beat me for being a wuss, a pussy, if you want to call it that. Like, there was only three boys. What are you talking about? Yeah, bang, bang, bang. And my dad was physically abusive. So he beat me with a belt buckle and a closed fist, and he drew blood on me many, many times. He would knock me to the ground, and I eventually learned how to stand up and be myself. And that was the beginning of my true self, the growth of who I am. Now, fast forward to today, I didn't realize how much that actually affected me, and that influenced how I allowed myself to be. And I ended up in a place after 2008 where the world had the economic collapse because of the American real estate market, losing a six-figure a year job, very, very powerfully. I was doing well. I was a leader. I was running the printing presses that made the Sears catalogs. I don't know if anybody remembers Sears catalogs.
Sears, yeah.
Yeah.
The department store, the clothing store.
And the wish book and all that sort of stuff, right? And so there I was. After that crash, the company that I worked for went under, and I no longer had a job. I had, some pensions and savings and stuff like that. And I chose to start my own business as a renovator, because I was a handyman. I had replumbed and wired the homes that I'd all owned, and I windows, doors, roofs, landscaping, all that sort of stuff. So I chose to do that for other people and get paid for it. I did a good job, but at the time, not really being a good business person, because always being an employee up to this point, I didn't know I could do the work, but there was other aspects of the business that I wasn't good at. And I ended up struggling just to get paid all the time. And it ended up putting me in a place where I lost confidence in myself, and I spiraled into depression, and ended up trying to commit suicide more than once. The first time that I was saved from that was a stranger. They actually noticed that I had the exhaust hooked up to my window in my car, and I was trying to undo myself, so to speak. And that one person communicated with me, and I said, go away, I don't want to live anymore. And they called 911, and I was saved. I ended up in a mental hospital for a while. And when I got out again, I convinced the doctors that I wouldn't try that again, and knowing full well that I would. And I chose that the next time I did this, I was going to go where nobody could find me, thinking that I was doing the right thing. Now, this is not a good positive concept, but it gives you an idea. I'm being authentic with you here. And this is the power
of vulnerable.
And vulnerable. I'm sharing my authenticity and my vulnerability with you by sharing the deepest, darkest parts of who I am and what made me who I am. So
Mhm.
here I am. Okay, now I'm actually going to try this again. I'm actually going to try to kill myself again. This is madness. If you're feeling this way at all, any of you listening to this, watching this, please reach out for help. But in the meantime, to continue the story, I went to say goodbye to my children. I had 5 children at the time. And one of my daughters wasn't there to say goodbye to. She saved my life because she wasn't there because I couldn't go. I couldn't do that to her, knowing how I had affected them the first time. And of course, it's madness that I would even try a second time. I thought, I should have learned my lesson. But that is when I learned my lesson. The universe spanked me twice with one person. And that is when I started my journey of true growth from a spiritual perspective. So what I had been doing up to that point was letting the outside world direct me and influence me and manipulate me into
Mhm.
being what other people thought I should be, rather than me understanding who I am and choosing who I need to be for myself. And that's the switch that I'm encouraging you to grasp and to understand, and I'm encouraging you to embrace that switch. Become who you truly are. Don't let the outside world influence you into not doing this or doing that. Choose that for yourself. Meditate. Be at peace with yourself. Understand who you are, and get to that place where you can realize, wait a second, that's not me. So I'm not going to do it. That's me. And as much as it scares the pants off me to embrace it, to do it, that's what I need to do to be myself. And this is the catch, my friends. This is the thing that's going to make the difference for your business, for your peace of mind, for your strength to communicate, to develop the trust with the people that you want to become, that you want to help, and the person you want to become. And that's the thing that's going to make the difference for you. So there's my background. There's a bit of my real authenticity and vulnerability. And I hope that answers the question for you.
It did. Wow. Wow. That was a hell of an answer. Thank you, Dean. Do you remember a specific moment where you shifted into the authentic Dean? Do you remember when that happened and what changed for you in
Yes,
regards to your business, to your performance, the way you were doing your things professionally?
absolutely, absolutely. So after that realization, that paradigm shift, and the choice to become my true authentic self, I started studying. I started studying what it takes to be myself, and to build my strengths, to build my character. I mean, I had a strong character all along, but it wasn't authentically me. It was a mirror image of my dad, who I could never please, who never accepted me as myself. And he
And you
always,
would never please him.
I never could. He went to the grave without ever acknowledging me as a
Hmm.
successful person, and that had an effect on me. And nonetheless, that also is one of those things that I wasn't allowing myself to embrace. But I didn't come to that realization until after he was gone. So this is what I'm talking about. When you get to that place where you need to embrace the real you, but you don't really know who the real you is, it's because you're not connected spiritually to yourself. You have not connected to your spiritual self. You're still focusing on the external. You're still allowing the outside world to direct your thoughts, to direct your feelings, to direct your choices. And this is why
Hmm.
the choices are always empty and always lead to failure, or at least your thoughts that you are a failure. You're not a failure. Every failure is a lesson and an opportunity to learn
Yes.
and to grow and to become more of who you really need to be and who you actually already are, even though you
Hmm.
haven't embraced that yet. So it's a challenge, it's a growth, it's a shift. You asked me what was the thing that made the difference. Well, when I was younger,
When you realize that you were now being 100% authentic, do you
yep,
remember when that happened?
sure do. I was working at this very workstation several years ago, um, and I was working on a document from one of my high performance coaching programs, where I was developing my own content and adding in a spiritual aspect to it, where I was reviewing who I was. And the document was about a daily review of the things that I did and the things that I didn't do, and accepting that I did what I did get completed well, and
Hmm.
not spanking myself about the things that I didn't get completed. And that takes a spiritual peace. That takes a self-awareness that You're always thanking yourself. You're not spanking yourself, because you got to grow. You got to progress. And if you're spanking yourself because you didn't do such and such well or at all, then that you're not going to grow. You're going to hold yourself back with doubt, with self-limiting beliefs. And that is not the path to growth. That is not the path to authenticity. And that people, when you're trying to connect with people, when you're trying to develop the know, like, and trust, they will catch on to that. You might not be saying it directly, but they will sense it. And they will not trust you because they can tell that you're being artificial, that you're not being authentic, that you're not being vulnerable, you're not being the real you. So while I was developing that document, a sensation from a previous recurring nightmare from when I was a younger person just came out of the blue. I had suppressed it for years, and just this being that I had always had nightmares about, that was always trying to catch me when I was sleeping. It was this dark force. And in my nightmares, I was always trying to escape. I couldn't run fast enough. I would feel like I was running through syrup. I couldn't, my legs wouldn't go. And I was always thinking, it's going to get me. It's going to get me. And every time at the end of my nightmare, I would get a little bit further away and then get around a rock or get around a tree. And as I would turn around to look at it, it would come out at me. And that's when I'd wake up in like sweat and fear. And I had this nightmare for months when I was younger. Well, that sensation of that nightmare suddenly came back completely powerfully. Boom, it was in the room with me. And I had been through so much, my attempted suicides, separation with my family, homelessness, all sorts of different things that were a result of me not being my authentic, my true self.
Okay.
I decided to face that thing, right? I was sick of not being a success. I was sick and tired of struggling. And I said to myself,
did you know who you wanted to be, or you didn't even know who you were trying to be? Okay, because that's very common. That's the most common scenario.
Yeah, didn't even know. And that was part of the trouble, the challenge, the struggle, is that I was still trying to figure out exactly who am I in such a form or fashion. How can I help people as myself? And when this sensation came, when this being entered the room and the room went dark as far as I was concerned, I instantly, now remember when I said what my dad did to me, I became a warrior after that. And I stood up out of my chair and challenged that being. I faced it, and I literally faced it. I turned around and I said, okay, that's it. You don't get to do this to me anymore. We're taking it to the mat right now. One of us is going to die right now. And I actually had a shadow boxing match with this entity right then and there. And I was screaming and yelling, and I didn't even know that I was in this place, because I was in a spiritual connection with myself. I was fighting with myself and didn't even know it. And when I was finished, of course, I didn't realize that I had actually woken up my wife, who was asleep at the time because I was working late. And she had the covers up and her eyes were wide, and like she's, oh my God, my husband's gone insane.
What's going on?
Right? What's going on? He's fighting with
am I dreaming? Because she thought that she was dreaming too.
So she was witnessing all this in silence, like in terror in the bed, while I was having this shadow boxing match with nothing. And that went on for 30, 40 minutes. And it felt like 30, 40 seconds to me. And when I sat down in my chair, thankfully it was where I sat, or I would have fallen on my ass on the floor. But I sat down, I was exhausted, but I had won. And what I had, the victory that I had achieved, was becoming aware of what that entity was. That entity was my spiritual self. And I didn't recognize it because I was not aware of who or what my spiritual self actually was. When I was victorious over that, now, I'm a big fan of the Hulk. I love the Marvels. And when I got into fights when I was younger, I always just got angrier to get stronger to win. I didn't care how many people I was up against, and I always managed to find some way to win. But anyways, just as a reference to what I connected with when I did that, after I had made peace with my spiritual self in that moment, big change, awareness of who I am, what I can do, my abilities, my strengths, my authenticity, my vulnerability, my weaknesses, all those things. And a big green hand came over my shoulder and put on up on my shoulder. It was my spiritual self. And it said, whatever we face together, brother. And ever since then, I've had this confidence, this awareness, this strength that no matter what happens, I am facing everything as a whole being, as a whole person. And this is what I need to get across to you, my friends, is that as you grow, as you struggle with that growth, you need to be your whole self. You can't be torn apart by limiting beliefs. You can't be torn apart by trying to be that particular coach or this particular influencer. Yes, they might have some good input, they have some good techniques, but you can't be them. You can only be you. And this is the point that I'm trying to make. When you're authentic, you have to focus on who you are so that you are the person that you portray in your videos, in your content, in your posts.
That's amazing.
When you communicate with people, you've got to be your true self. If you swear and you like the F-bomb, then use the F-bomb. If you whatever it is that is you, be you, so that you can attract people that know, like, and trust you. It's that trust factor. If they don't like you, they're never going to trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're never going to let you help them. And this is all about helping people. If you want to help people, you've got to be you. You've got to be able to help yourself first.
Right.
If you can't help yourself first, you can't help anybody else. And that's the bottom line.
Yes, and this is so great, because I see you as someone authentic, showing vulnerability, and with a strong confidence. And I didn't know where that came from. And so understanding how you built that is what we need to learn. Because, when we see others, like, say, for example, I'm comparing myself to you, and then I want to be like you in terms of self-confidence. But if I don't see, if I don't understand how you turn out to be who you are, then I'm going to try and mimic that, and by doing so, I lose authenticity.
That's right.
So you just taught us how you learn to be authentic, and we all can do that.
Yes.
I learned my authenticity, the way I present myself as being authentic, when I talked about my struggles. And that happened many years ago when I wanted to be a good speaker, but I was trying to, because I was actually talking about that yesterday with a client. I've always been communicative, but I was no communicator. So I felt comfortable communicating. That didn't help, because that didn't help. So I wanted to be a good presenter, a good speaker. So I was trying to mimic others, and I was trying to do the way they were doing. So I felt comfortable because I thought I was doing the right thing, but it wasn't working. I wasn't connecting with my prospective clients, my potential clients. They were listening to me, but it wasn't interesting. So I failed. And that made me feel sad. So I wasn't pursuing my career. I wasn't going forward. And then I realized that maybe I had to change something. I learned how to tell stories about myself. And it wasn't easy. I froze at first. It wasn't easy, because
it takes courage. It
takes courage. Like, to face an audience. It was obviously before COVID, so everything was in person. But to face an audience like 20 people, not a big one, but like a small audience, 20 people, and then tell a story where you failed and you learned something. So that's what I teach my students or my clients, how to tell the story of your struggles, not to try and gain empathy from them. That's not the objective. The goal is to connect, to have them understand how you've learned everything you have today, the knowledge and the experience, and then they will trust you to share and then teach them how to do that. So it wasn't easy, but I was talking about my struggles, the failures rather than the wins. But then at the end, you share a lesson. So I'm telling you this because I want to ask another question.
Absolutely.
For those who are struggling to go live or to show up, because they know this is the recipe for success. They know that that's not the issue. They do believe it's the right path for them to walk on. I need to be showing up. I need to be visible, because that's the way I'm going to be remembered. I need to show up. But they tend to avoid that, because oh, maybe they postpone it, they put it off. Maybe I'll start next week. Maybe I'll start the week after. I have to get things sorted. I have to, to organize, tidy up my desk first. I need to maybe to select a list of topics. So, they're just putting things off, procrastinating. That's the word, because they don't want to show up. And there's something holding them back and preventing them from showing up. And I believe some of them are struggling with their true selves. They don't want to show up because they don't know how to be authentic. So for those who are fearing showing up because they don't know how to talk about themselves and they don't want to accept the fact that vulnerability is a good thing, what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, it's a challenge, and you're not alone. Fear is a big part of building a business because you're going into an unknown place. You're going into an unknown state of exposing yourself. You're going out on Facebook Live. You're going on Instagram. You're going on wherever it is you're going. And it's one of those where you want to get it bang on the first time. And the catch is that if you put yourself in the other place where you're observing rather than being observed, what makes you feel the most comfortable? Do you appreciate seeing someone saying the wrong thing and getting their tongue cut around their eye teeth and they couldn't see what they're saying? Do you appreciate seeing someone be human, being vulnerable, being authentic? Or do you get all intimidated by seeing perfection? Now, you might think that perfection is the best way to go. You might think that the perfection, that one guy that bang on, he got it so good. But it makes you realize that, wait a second, how did he get there? He didn't get there because he started yesterday. He got there because he started 10 years ago. And when he started 10 years ago, the last thing he was, or she, was perfect. As a matter of fact, they probably sat like I did at the beginning with my finger hovered over that go live button for half an hour. I got up to go to the washroom. Oh, I got to go pee. You know what? Oh, my hair's out. Of course, I don't have any hair, but okay, my mustache needs to be combed. Whatever, right? we put ourselves in that place where we're worried about what other people think. That is fear, and fear is false evidence appearing real. You're putting yourself into a place where you're letting something that hasn't even happened or may never happen be in control of what you're doing right now. And it's in the future and it hasn't happened yet. It may well not happen. But the thing is that everybody's gone through it. The person that you're comparing yourself to that's got it slammed didn't start yesterday. So understand that if you're starting today or you've just started and you've only been at it for a short while, allow yourself to make mistakes. And don't beat yourself up when you do make mistakes. I've put in hundreds of hours of going live, and I've hosted and been a guest speaker on so many podcasts and so many interviews. And it's okay if you blah, blah, blah. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's a sexy moment. It's a chance for you to laugh at yourself.
I like that. It's a sexy moment. I like that.
Right? And it's an opportunity for you just to be real and let people know that, wait a second, he tripped over his tongue 7 times in 15 minutes. I can do that too. I can trip over my tongue. My tongue's the biggest part of my face or whatever, right? Just be silly and allow yourself to be you. Because when you do that, you let other people know that have not started yet or are just starting that, wait a second, I don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
You don't need to be perfect. You never need to be perfect.
You shouldn't.
That's right. Because now what you're doing is you're intimidating everybody else out there that knows that they can't be perfect, or at least thinks they can't be perfect. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be there. Because guess what? People are watching that never say anything because they love the fact that you're just showing up. And I've had many, many people where I went to change something because I felt I wasn't doing something well enough, or I think, maybe it's time for a change. And people have reached out to me from Siberia, Australia, Hawaii, all over the world to say, hey man, you stopped doing such and such. I was loving it when you did that. Would you please keep doing that? And this is the point that I'm trying to make. Just be you, and you will attract people that resonate with your spirit, with your eminence, with your aura, with how you project yourself, because as humans, we're meant to be connected. And as people that are connected, we're meant to bring people along in the journey.
Mm-hmm. That was beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. So for us to wrap up, I'm going to ask you one last thing. Is there something that you could advise our viewers, maybe some assignment, some homework, something that they could do in the next few days that would bring them a solid and tangible result? Like something small that they could implement today, or maybe in the next few hours, or maybe tomorrow, that would bring them a small result in their business for the next week or so. What would be your recommendation?
I would suggest that I mentioned earlier, thank yourself, don't spank yourself.
Right.
So I'm going to expand on that. And this is something you can do any time of day, but I'm going to suggest for you to do it not only through the day. So what I'm talking about is a negative to positive mental shift. When you feel yourself thinking or acting negatively or resisting action altogether because of negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, admit to yourself that you're holding yourself back. And then visualize what would happen if you just went ahead and did it and inspired someone to say, wait a second, hey, he can do it, I can do it. Or she can do it, I can do it. And give yourself the awareness. That's how everybody else goes through it. And just be confident in the fact that you're there right now actually considering doing it in the first place. You've already gone further than most people are going to go. And just take that next step. Don't be shy. Be sly. And just admit to yourself that you know you can make mistakes, but be willing to make those mistakes. Be willing to F it up. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Just be willing to be yourself. But at the end of the day, this is the part that's going to make the difference for you. You're going to make that difference through the day. Each time you have that negative thought or that challenge, you procrastinate, whatever the case may be. Admit to yourself that that's what everybody else does, and just step up there and do it. Hit that go live button, make that post. Don't worry about the grammar in that post. If there's going to be haters out there, build your business from the bricks the haters throw, because those people are mad at you because you did something they couldn't do, not because you did something wrong. What you're doing is you're making other people see in themselves the things they can't do that you're doing. But at the end of the day, when you're falling asleep, thank yourself by doing this simple thing. Review your day. Remember the things you've done well, or have at least done to completion, or even if you didn't complete a long-standing project, at least you made progress on it.
Took a step.
Thank yourself. And thank yourself for the things that you've done. And when you get done that and you're still awake, and you think of the things that are, that maybe on the negative side that you didn't do, or you couldn't do, or you should have done and you didn't do, whatever the case may be with the stuff that you didn't do or think you didn't do well, don't beat yourself up over it, because guess what? It's going to happen again, and it isn't the end of the world. It is the simple fact of growing into yourself. You're going to make mistakes, but they're not failures, they're lessons. Analyze wait a second, I made that mistake right then and there. How can I do it better next time? Remember that. And when you come up against the circumstance again, remember what it takes to get better. Write it down if you want. At the end of the day, if you want to keep a bit of a log and say, I did this well and I need to do that better, which is the document I was working on when I had my spiritual connection, actually. Give yourself the opportunity to do that. And if you actually want that document, reach out to me individually or reach out to Jack, and I'll arrange for him to have it. And this is there's various versions of it I've shared with Jack, and we're always, we always have time to fill out or struggle with having time, I should say, to fill out these documents because we're busy all the time. Right. And I do it mentally now. I used to do it physically, but it takes time. And that's one of the things that we all struggle with, is having time to do what we need to do. But in the meantime, you're working on it, you're progressing, you're having success. I mean, there is no such thing as an overnight success. You might, strike gold on a certain ad or a certain post and get lots of likes or lots of comments. But remember, if you want to engage with people, all the likes the thumbs, the hearts, and the cares on your Facebook posts or whatever the case may be. Always interact. Go in with that. You can get a list of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Communicate with them. Everybody that's ever made a comment on your Facebook posts, your lives, wherever the case may be, communicate with them regularly and continuously, and as soon as possible after a go live, because the algorithm focuses on that. So I know there was a lot of different details in there. There was a lot of information in there. Watch the video again and take notes, and just remember, you're getting there one step at a time. Just keep making those steps. You never get to the end of the race if you stop stepping. Just take that first step. How did Terry Fox get where he got? He dipped his foot in the ocean, and he took one step at a time. When he had to stop, he rested. Then when he kept going, and he never stopped.
Never gave up.
Never gave up.
Never gave up. That is great, Dean. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have the links for people to reach out to you and find you and connect with you here in this post. So you can find maybe here or here or here somewhere in this screen. And then you can find Dean and then connect with him. And I would encourage you to do so, because that's what I did. And, I've been learning so much. He's such a great guy. So thank you so much, Dean, for accepting my invitation to participate in this video. And yeah, I hope you guys liked him. And I always like him. And I thought you guys would like him too, because come on, it was amazing. We've been here like for 36 minutes already and didn't even notice it. Thank you so much.
Much love, brother. And I hope everybody got something out of this. Thank you. Happy to be here.